Right, hello, and welcome to my presentation called Stay at Home Astronomy with myself, Space Case Sarah. And I'm really excited to be here and to talk a little bit about doing astronomy at home affordably, and also talk a little bit about space science and different things that are happening in the space industry. So first of all, who am I? I am Space Case Sarah. I do a lot in science communication, and my primary focus right now is I host a radio show called Cosmic Waves with Space Case Sarah on a radio station called iRock Space Radio, and that is available on the iHeartRadio platform. I'm also the senior production assistant for Ask an Astrobiologist, which is presented by the NASA Astrobiology program. I'm a science writer for an organization called Blue Marble Space Institute of Science, which is an organization that also focuses on astrobiology, but also just space science in general. I am the board president for the Rockford Amateur Astronomers, and that's kind of who I am here and representing myself as, because disclaimer, I am a NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador. I am not representing or presenting this program as one today. So I'm doing this as Space Case Sarah on behalf of the Rockford Amateur Astronomers. And that's just a little bit of my professional world. I also am a certified scuba diver, a very avid adventurer. I'm actually hiking to Mount Everest Base Camp next month. So I have a lot on my plate. And I'm starting grad school next month too. So, or January, I'm sorry, excuse me, next semester. So getting into amateur astronomy, I know this sounds really obvious, but the easiest way to get into it is to simply look up. And it's kind of amazing to me how few people pay attention to what is happening in the night sky. And it's also not surprising because it's just really easy for us to get very sucked into our Netflix and our couches and our phones and our computer screens. And so, what once used to be a primary source of evening entertainment for early humans, and they used it to tell stories and make up gods in their constellations. We don't do that anymore. We don't bond outside in the same way that early humans used to. So I understand it, but even today you can still look up, you can see quite a lot in the night sky, and you can get used to the different rhythms and the patterns of the seasons and the moon. And so the easiest way to get into astronomy really is just to look up. I do have a caveat to looking up though, and it is a sad and unfortunate fact that we live in very polluted skies. And where I live, for example, on this scale, I would say that my night views are probably around a 6 and a 7. And a lot of people in this area, you're not going to get much better than a 5. And that's just an unfortunate fact of living east of the Mississippi River, where we just have a lot of population and we have a lot of people. And there are places though that have these, number 2, number 1, excellent dark sky sites. And these are preserved areas out west, usually, where you can go and you can have spectacular night views. I have actually not had the chance really to go to any of these as of yet. But I've heard that it's almost, if you're very familiar with like the 7 and the 6 on that scale, going over to like a 3 or a 2 is almost disorienting. You can't figure out where constellations are anymore because there's just so much. It's one of those things that's also why people don't pay attention to the night sky, because there's just not a lot to see. But there is a way that we could change this. And one way that you can help get involved with changing that is supporting and following the International Dark Sky Association. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but they are an organization that has been working to promote better ordinances for dark skies. So for example, Flagstaff in Arizona has different ordinances put into place where all their lights have to aim the light downwards. So they're not shooting needless light out into space. And everyone's homes need to be this way too. So it's a protected dark sky city. And this organization is working to try to get that to be more common everywhere. And so there are things that we can do even on our own that we can do that they suggest which can help reduce light pollution. But it's one of those things where it's going to be, we need a big collaborative effort. But the night sky is out there. You can see the moon. You can always usually see Jupiter and Saturn. So just start familiarizing yourself with the night sky and what you can see. So when you are looking at the sky at different points in the season, sometimes you can, if some of you remember, you can use those paper wheels and you will turn the wheel to whatever point of the year you're at, and it will show a little window and it'll be like, oh, if you look north, this is what you will see. You can still get those online and you can still buy those off of Amazon, and they're great. They're sky wheels, they're called. Most of us now, though, have cell phones. So while you can absolutely go get a sky wheel, I'm going to suggest a couple of different apps and computer programs that I really love, because generally that's what everybody uses now. I really love these 3 apps in particular, and I screenshot the first 2, and then the third is a video, and unfortunately the audio is really loud, so I'm going to have to hit pause right away on it, so your microphone or your speakers don't blow out. The first screenshot that you're seeing there is a program, it's an app called Solar Walk, and it's not really astronomy related in particular, but the reason I love this app is because you can basically like fly around the solar system. And in this picture, I'm cracking open the structure of Mars, and you can see its core and its mantle. And you can, on the side there, select different tabs, and it can tell you things like, how much would you weigh on Mars? And the reason I think that this is a really cool one to have is not only do you learn about the solar system and familiarize yourself with the planets and distances and things like that, if you start really getting into astronomy, trust me, this is everybody's problem, you cannot help but to want to find someone and have them look at what you're looking at through whatever you're using. And you will probably get questions. And one of my favorite things about being a communicator now is that it is, of course, it's always acceptable to say, I don't know, let's look that up. And this is like a great app that you can use to look up information if somebody wanted to ask you some questions about, you know, what is it like on Mars? And so again, that's called Solar Walk. I will definitely be sharing the different names of programs and apps and links with the library after this presentation is done. So there will be, I'm sure, somewhere that you can find all of these resources listed and you can check them out yourself. The second screenshot is a program called Stellarium. This is a free program that you can get either through, you can download it to your computer or you can use it through a browser. And it's a really cool app. It's kind of complicated, so I wouldn't suggest it to, not an app, a computer program. I wouldn't suggest it to younger kids. But so this screenshot is showing a night view in Rockford. I don't even know when I took that picture, but probably sometime in the summer. And you can put in, you know, the day and the time and which direction you want to look at, and it can show you what should be out there at that time at night. What's really cool about it is, like I said, it's a little complex. You can turn on different functions to it and you can see the constellation shapes. And so you can start to learn your different constellations. And you can also switch it to different cultures of constellations. So you can look at constellations that the ancient Egyptians used. And it's really interactive, very, very cool. I think it's also neat that it's something that is so complex and it's also for free. So you can, this Stellarium, just look it up and you can download it for free. I think that that's just really fantastic. The app that I use, though, when I am doing astronomy, and a great way to familiarize yourself with your night sky, is an app called Star Walk. And I feel so bad, we have to pause it. So you can see really briefly here a constellation showing up. But essentially what you will do with this app is you open it up and you can tell your app to whatever direction you're facing for it to show you what is out there at that time. And then you can move your phone around and you can look in different directions and see what you should be seeing. So say you're out and you look up and you're like, oh, what's that really bright star, and you can hold it up and you can find out, oh no, that's actually Jupiter, because it'll tell you that's what you're looking at in that direction. And if you can kind of see in the bottom of the picture, there's a little dotted line, and that's always tracking the orbital pattern of either the sun or the moon. And that's usually on the line that you're going to find all the planets as well. I use this all the time. I mean, there are even times that I'm like, not totally sure what I'm looking at. And so then I will pull this out and use it as a reference, which is great, like all year round. So you honestly can plan and learn what you can look at by using this app. It also has a feature where you can have it sign up. You can sign up for alerts for it to tell you, you know, oh, this meteor shower is going to be hitting at this time, or maybe the ISS is passing by. So this is my favorite, and it's a lot of other people who do astronomy's favorite app as well. Again, it's called Star Walk. I wish I could hit play, but it's going to be really loud. And but you know, it's a really fun tool, and it's the one I use for sure the most. So apps, I would say, aside from looking up, apps are definitely your best entry point next into learning your constellations, learning where things are, and then, you know, learning what you can't see. But if you want to take it another step further and you're like, okay, this is great, I'm having a good time, what are ways that you can directly observe? This is a fun and, again, a very free and easy and cheap option. You can go to different micro observatories virtually around the country. Most of them are out west. And you can schedule these little, they're observatories, they're little cameras, telescope cameras, and they will take pictures of what you want them to take. And you can do this from the comfort of your couch. So if you are a lazy astronomer like myself, who doesn't like to be cold, which, yes, I know I'm hiking to Mount Everest, so it doesn't make any sense. This is a perfect way for you to also get used to seeing different things, and in particular, deep sky objects, which are things that we don't normally get to see with our own naked eye. So this is a little screenshot of some of the things that this micro observatory took. Andromeda is something that if you live in a dark enough area, you can see that with your naked eye, but it doesn't look anything like that. But you know, you can go through this menu and you can select different galaxies or different nebulas, things that you want to take a picture of. And if it's available, it will take a picture and then it will email it to you. And I think that this is, you know, just a fun way to learn more about not just what's in our solar system, but you get to get more familiar with different galaxies. And the Messier catalog, which the Messier catalog is a catalog that Messier made, he was a comet hunter, and he started getting really frustrated that he kept seeing the same things that weren't comets. He really just wanted to name a comet after himself. And so he made this catalog, and it's actually a big challenge that a lot of people try to do in the early spring, where all the Messier catalog objects are available over the course of one night. And so they try to do this marathon, and they stay up the whole night trying to get all of them. So if you want to get familiar with Messier, and that's something you want to do someday, this might be a great way for you to get familiar with that. So that's another virtual, but it's free. And again, I will share links at the end of the presentation with the library, so you guys can find where these different things are. So kind of stepping up to the next level. So say you want to actually get a telescope, there are still easy and accessible ways to start getting into astronomy without having to make that financial commitment. I will start by saying, if you are getting a telescope from like a Walmart or a Meijer, or, you know, even Target, if it's even like a Smithsonian or a National Geographic brand, those are toys. And it's not that you can't see things with them, they're not very well constructed. And even like at Rockford Amateur Astronomers, we don't allow people to bring in those telescopes for help, because it's just not worth our time. They're cheap, and they don't work very well. So different ways you can get accustomed to telescopes are the ones that I have listed here. So there are library lending programs all around the United States. I don't even know if this library has a program, but I guess I will find out afterwards. And like, for example, there's two available at Cherry Valley Library, but you have to be a resident in order to check them out. But you can check them out, and they have little guidebooks that tell you how to operate them. So you can look for telescopes at libraries, or you can join a club like the Rockford Amateur Astronomers. Most of us are still pretty much operating in a remote capacity. We were open, we kind of went back a little bit to more in person, at least public nights. But you know, there's still a lot of clubs that have that option of you being able to do it from home. And one of the perks of joining too is that like at our observatory, there is a dome with a big telescope. And so on a public night, you can come and look through that big telescope. And you can also borrow telescopes from the clubs. So this is another way that maybe it's not quite as stay at home as the other options, but it's way more affordable for you to try out a telescope through a club than, you know, shopping. And I mean, no one would be buying a bunch of telescopes anyways. But the next step, and a lot of people overlook this, would be binoculars. And binoculars have sometimes an easier price point, and they do a great job too. It's just when something is magnified that big, the uneasiness and the unsteadiness of your hands really obscures and messes with your view. So you probably would need a stand to keep it steady, but it's the great option if you're looking to start somewhere and you're not ready to go all the way into a telescope. And I get asked so many questions around Christmas season of what kind of telescope should I get for, you know, someone for Christmas. I refuse to give a definitive answer to that, because if you are actually now looking for a telescope, you're going to get into this reflector versus a refractor debate. It's not really a debate, but it's just a preference. And what you end up getting will largely be based on your needs and just generally what you like. And so what I like, and a lot of people don't, I like Dobsonian telescopes, and these are mine. That big one in the front is my 14-inch Dobsonian telescope. Her name is Big Bertha. And Big Bertha, I'm 5'10", and in that stand, Bertha's taller than me. I can't move that by myself very easily. That one in the middle is the one I use the most. But still, all three of these, they're very large, they're very heavy, they're difficult to get in and out of cars, they're just not easy to move around. So that deters a ton of people. But there are pros to getting a telescope like this. So these are very large reflecting telescopes. Essentially, they're just big mirrors inside the bottom. And those big mirrors can catch lots of light, and they're just spectacular. I mean, the views you can get through these telescopes are amazing. They also don't have any motors. They don't have any technology on them. So that keeps their price point really low. If somebody is actually very interested in getting a real telescope, the one that's in the back, that's my 6-inch, is the one that I do suggest to a lot of people. And actually, if you were going to go to a library and rent a telescope, the telescope you would get from the library is a tabletop version of basically these. So they're very durable. That's why they use them for the library programs, and they're easy to use. I love my Dobsonians, so you know, that's what I suggest and I prefer, but that's not for everybody, and that's okay. So there's lots of different types of telescopes, and there's lots of different ways to get into astronomy casually. And that's kind of, at the most part, most of what I wanted to talk about doing stay-at-home astronomy. You know, there's so many resources online through NASA and through just the internet in general. If you're looking to get into observing, download some of these apps, learn what's happening at what point of the year you want to observe, seek out some of these resources. They're great. And, you know, and then if you want to step it up to this telescope level, then you work your way to there. So shifting my focus now to kind of space in general, if you didn't know, 2021 was the year that everything changed for space. And as a professional science communicator who works in space science, this has been just one of the most exciting years for space and space science. And, you know, we're all tied together, essentially. Astronomy and space exploration, they all go hand in hand. Here's some of the highlights that happened over the past year, if you didn't know. But we had the Perseverance rover land on Mars. This is the biggest and the most impressive rover that's landed on Mars yet. And she took with her Ingenuity, which was a little helicopter And that was our first flight on another planet, which is super important because we have plans for other missions to fly on other like moons of like Titan and other locations. So it was really important for us to be able to prove that we could do it. We had Lucy and Dart go up. Lucy's going to study Jupiter's Trojan asteroids, which are remnants from the beginnings of the solar system, and they're before and after Jupiter in its orbital path. And then the double asteroid redirection test is an important mission that's going to show that if a big rock ever were to head our way, we could actually do something about it. So it's going to bump a little asteroid in a different direction to change the trajectory of its orbital path. And then hopefully, I'm going to knock on my wood cabinet here, the James Webb Telescope is set to launch December 22nd. It's been delayed many, many times. So hopefully this successor to Hubble that's going to be so impressive, if it works, is going to go up at the end of the month. But then we had so many amazing things that happen in the private space world. And for example, Inspiration 4 went up with SpaceX, and this was the first all-civilian crew that has gone to space for an extended length of time. So they went up for 3 days at an orbit higher than the Hubble telescope. And it was just a game changer because all of these are not professionally trained astronauts. And it's just opening the door to making space more accessible to different people with different backgrounds. For example, the girl on the right, the woman on the right, Haley Arsenault, she has a prosthetic limb. And so that was the first time we had someone with a prosthetic who went into space. And then this is my humble brag, the woman in the middle on the left is Dr. Sian Proctor, and she's my friend. So this was just like such an exciting mission for me because I personally knew someone going, but it also is going to be just a game changer to make it more accessible for more people. We also have Virgin Galactic start doing private space launches. I actually know people who are going to be going up with that soon as well. And that's going to start a new space tourism industry. It's going to open a whole new world of space tourism. And we also had Blue Origin, who, this is Wally Funk. She was one of the Mercury 13 women who they went through the same astronaut training as the Apollo mission astronauts to prove that women could do it. And her dream had always been to go to space, and she finally got that opportunity. And so there, there's a lot of discussion about the billionaire space race and the money that goes into this, but it's kind of no different to me than the airplane industry. And when airplanes were first invented and people started flying, that was a super wealthy and elite thing to do. And now we all fly. And so we are hoping in the space industry that this is the entry point, this is the start for a really big and bright future for space exploration and space travel for all of us. And on Blue Origin also, we had William Shatner fly, and he had an extremely profound experience. And this is something that we've also really been looking forward to in space science, because now we have artists and we have poets and we have musicians and people who are very creative and expressive who can go up and experience this moment in space and experience something that we call the overview effect, which a lot of people believe will be something that can really help transform our planet and help us as humans. And the overview effect was a term coined by an author named Frank White. And this is a term that's supposed to kind of embody the idea or the feeling, I suppose, of what many astronauts report when they come back was when they see the Earth and they see it out in space and they see the thin blue line that's our atmosphere. It's very profound, and you see the world as one place and one home against the darkness of space. And this is the iconic Earth rising photo, and this photo was taken by an Apollo astronaut, and it got put on the cover of every magazine. And this was the first time that we saw the Earth as a whole, as people on this planet, and it profoundly changed a lot of people and their understanding of how to look at our planet. And it's not just us, but there's everyone. And we had that also happen with the blue marble iconic image as well. That's a way that we can get as close to kind of sharing this feeling back with the general public. But now that we have so many more people getting the chance to go to space, and very expressive and creative people, we're hoping that this feeling of oneness will be able to be spread more to more people. There's another really iconic overview effect picture that I'm going to share with you, and this one has a lot of personal meaning to me. And this is sort of a reverse. Instead of seeing the Earth as one big, beautiful blue planet, the Voyager missions, and this is my little gif of Voyager 1, the Voyager missions were these spacecraft that were designed to go look at the outer planets of our solar system and then go into interstellar space forever. And when they were done with their mission, Carl Sagan, a hero of mine and a famous science communicator, went to NASA and he convinced them to turn the cameras around and to take a selfie, if you will, of Earth one last time before they left. And this is the picture that they took. And I'm sorry, it's a little pixelated, but you get the idea. That's us. That's Earth, way out there, teeny, teeny, tiny. And so in sort of that macro sense that Earth rising and the blue marble pictures brought to us, Voyager gave us this teeny, tiny little speck of a dot to just remind us how small we really are. And it inspired Carl to write The Pale Blue Dot. And this is an excerpt of him reading The Pale Blue Dot, and this is Carl Sagan in his own words. And I'm going to end this presentation with this video, but what I really wanted to emphasize and hope that it all brings everything together is that astronomy is just one part of a bigger mission that we all have as people on Mother Earth, spaceship Earth, and that we are just a part of this great cosmos, and we are so lucky to live on this planet that we can experience such a beautiful planet and get to enjoy the night sky. So this is Carl Sagan reading a little bit of his Pale Blue Dot.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
So with that, that is my presentation. I want to thank you and everyone at the library for coming and listening. I have not actually given a presentation in quite some time, so this was really fun for me to pull together, and I hope to be able to start doing these more in person again someday soon. But again, my name is Sarah. I go by Space K Sarah. You can find me online everywhere as Space K Sarah. I have a website, spaceksarah.com. You can find links to my radio show and to all the different myriad of things that I'm doing professionally and personally. And I really hope that this helps give you some starting points for getting into astronomy and just inspires you to be a little bit more aware about what is happening in space science and what is going on, because I think that over the next few years, you're going to see just a tremendous shift in the space industry. And it's just really fun for me to start bringing this information forward to other people and getting you all encouraged and excited about different things that are happening in both astronomy and astrobiology and the private space sector. So that is what I have. Thank you.